What's up, bros? Meet the professor. And I'm going to turn some lights on here so you can see what's going on. Anyway, oh my God, that's even worse. All right. I got to put these glasses on just because I'm cool like that. No, my eyes are killing me. Hey, what's up, fellas? I mean, that was quick. What's up, bros? Everybody cool? Can you hear me just fine? Good. I wanted to jump on here and talk to you guys about, I'm not going to talk about, probably not talking about red pill content anymore, probably not going to talk MGTOW stuff, just because I've said everything I've had to say. I've said everything there is to say about it. And if you haven't figured it out by now, then I'm sorry. But I'm going to stick to doing stuff that's like maybe anti-aging. We found the cure to cancer, if you guys didn't know that. It's probably what helped me, get my life back. So, and if you guys didn't know, I had dropped all the way down to 160 pounds. I'm all the way back up to 200 pounds again. But I got real sick. I was so sick and I didn't know what the hell was wrong with me. Anyway, I was living in a cabin out in the woods in Puebla for about 8 months. And with all my dogs in this cabin that I bought. And at the end of the 8 months, I discovered that the cabin that I bought had been sold to other people, like several other people. So that didn't work out too good. And since the rules here in this country are not like everywhere else where you can just go and complain to the cops and go to a judge, what they do is they often try to extort you just to get the cops to show up. So I about had it with talking about stuff like that and what drove me out there and what made me decide I'm going to go live off the grid and practice my survival skills. And by the end of the 8 months, I'm like dying. I had lost probably 30% of my muscle. I had lost so much just body composition. But what really screwed with me, how it affected me mentally, how it affected me just physically. I was walking down into town, which is about an hour's walk, and then walk up the mountain again. And just so you guys know, it rains out there 365 days a year, and it's freezing as cold. So, and I was living off of the trees that I had out there, which was like every kind of fruit tree you could imagine. So it was lovely as an environmental type of thing, but unless the grid collapses and I got to do that all over again, I will probably be more prepared. I was not prepared because if for whatever reason I didn't collect water that day, I was done for. But I didn't want to talk about this specifically. What I wanted to talk about was last year, I had been, for years, left messages on my son's name because he's Turkish and his mother's Turkish and they lived in Germany when I was stationed in Germany. And I was run out of town, okay? She threatened to kill me. You know the backstory. I don't need to go over that again. I don't want to talk about her at all. But I want to talk about him because he was so brain damaged, and not brain damaged, but brainwashed that he believed a lot of stuff about me. And I admitted to all of it. I said, yeah, I was a liar and a cheater and everything else, because I was a young guy and I was with this older chick that like just latched on to me and wouldn't let me fucking go anywhere and do anything. In addition to that, she was an alcoholic and we basically drank wine until we passed out every night. And when you're an alcoholic that drinks, you make bad decisions, you don't do good things. Well, fast forward 22 years later, I get this message from this kid and it says, I am your son. I was like, oh, where have you been? And he didn't think that I'd be happy about it. He thought I would be weird about it. And it felt weird at first because the same thing happened to me when I met my father, is that I wanted to get to know him and talk to him, but he was very combative. All he wanted to do was like insult me and stuff and like talk about things that he had gotten secondhand from his mother about me. And so I go, wait a minute. I'm gonna just back up a little bit. Not that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Yeah, I was running around with a lot of the girls, and she threatened every single one of them. And one girl threatened to chop some chick's tits off if she helped me or whatever. So she was a very threatening person, and she paid some Russian guys to come after me, and I ended up having to fight these two guys. And but I don't know what the hell she was thinking. But my son was coming along, and I'm like, look, man, I'm really sorry about what happened, and I'm not trying to, evade responsibility. I want to get to know you so you could get to know me. And we were cool. We were cool to the point where he was like writing me in the morning, hey, Dad, I hope you have a great day. I love you and all this shit. And I get this one message one day. He was like, fuck you. And I'm like, well, that's weird. He doesn't talk to me like that. Because we were getting along. He was telling me about, he was going to school for metal shop and he was learning how to paint, automotive paint. He was learning how to do all these clear coats and all this cool stuff. So if you guys don't know, parental alienation is when the parent takes the kid and makes it difficult or impossible to see your kid. Well, the backstory with this kid is that his mother committed paternity fraud with another guy, had a baby with another guy. She was married to a guy, but she had his best friend, I guess, knocked her up. And so for the past however many years, he had been paying child support for this other kid, this kid that wasn't his. I talked to him on the phone, and I said, your buddy Mike is the father of your kid. And I know it's too late now because she's over 18, you're not going to get your money back. I said, but I'm talking to my own son now, and he's telling me, she said this about you and that about you. And I'm like, oh, great. I go, because really, parental alienation is child abuse. Parental alienation damages a kid, and by the time you even get around to the kid, they hate you. And that's the way this kid was talking to me. I'm like, whoa, wait, man, you don't got to talk to me like that. I was like, he's like, well, I figured you'd be in jail or whatever. I go, you do realize that people change. You know what I mean? I was 20-something years old. I'm 50 now. Well, I guess I was 50 at the time. And I was like, people do get better with time if they don't continue to do bad stuff. Stopped drinking 23 years ago. So that was a big thing. I wish the dog would shut up. That was a big thing for me. To get over, because mentally, I was unemployable, all this stuff, and I was a mess. Even being sober and being regimented to a halfway house, a men's halfway house, that I didn't feel like I belonged in. But I definitely needed to get sober and stay sober. And I celebrated 23 years back in March. But what I discovered about my kid was that he had basically been, castrated. He hadn't been around any masculine men whatsoever. And when I'm talking to him, he's like a communist. He's like a socialist. And I'm like, you realize this stuff is bad. It leads to death, and I don't want to get into politics. I was like, so what in the hell happened to this kid? So, backstory, his mom's always been on social programs. When she met me, she felt like she had hit the lottery. And so I just wanted a girl that was easy, and she just wanted a guy that would get her pregnant and give her a kid so she could collect child support, which is precisely what she got from the last guy, and then she got from me for 18 years. He's telling me, oh, she never got a payment and all this stuff. I was like, really? So I pulled up the receipts, and so that was undebatable. You can't deny this stuff, especially when you're in the Florida court system. If you don't pay your child support, you go to jail, you lose your license and all this stuff. So I finally got it all paid off, renewed my passport, and went back overseas and stayed overseas. I'm still overseas today. No intention of going back for what? Who do I have there? Nobody. But I ended up feeling like, and I started to discover a lot of stuff. I started to put these pieces of the puzzle together. What happened with my daughter? What happened with my ex-wife? What happened with my stepmother? What happened with my dad? What happened with my brother? This was a setup. A lot of this stuff was a setup. And I could not see it. And it wasn't evident to me until I had a phone call which I didn't say anything on the phone because I was just so livid with these motherfuckers, when I discovered that they were all just users. All the people involved were just users. And if you're like me and you want to be on God's side, then the world is going to be against you. The world has been against me since I accepted Christ. Even though I was running away from God most of my life, in the past 20 years, I still deep down knew that God was with me. Life was not good. But when I turned myself around and I suddenly discovered, hey, you know what? The Lord loves me and is carrying me through something. And now, as I'm an Orthodox, by the way. I'm an Orthodox Christian, and I am serious about it, and I walk with God every day. And the people who don't walk with God understand nothing about what it's like to be me, because they don't know anything about me. You don't know anything about me. You don't even know me anymore. You think that you know the person that you used to know, but that's not true. So parental alienation, like I said, is when a father or the parent, the custodial parent, makes it hard or impossible to see his kid to the point where, like, they're not even relevant anymore. And then what happens is, after time, well, your dad's not shit, you know, you just pay child support. And anything that they say, the kid is going to believe, especially when I was long gone before the kid was even born. And so 22 years later, he said that when I talked to him on the phone, yeah, I looked for you when I was 16, and I saw you in Colombia. I go, why didn't you write me a message? You know, why didn't you say something to me then? And all this time I'm thinking that perhaps his mother is catfishing me, talking to me. But he mentioned some things, like I said before, that he played instruments. I go, okay, well, what instruments do you play? Well, I play French horn. And so when I said woodwind, he corrected me and said he played brass. And I said, because she would never know anything about that. So I knew it was really him. He has all the combative characteristics that I have. And I'm just, you know what I mean? It's like playing, it's like sparring with a little kid. And he's trying to wordsmith me, trying to sound smart. I'm trying to dumb myself down, you know, like sound like a little college kid, so I can listen to him and see if he can relate. But he's not. He's super resistant. He didn't want to talk, whatever. So I got good news, and there's a lot of good news going on, especially for you fathers that pay child support, that you get to collect the taxes on that. I never collected any taxes on any kid anytime for the 18 years that I was paying child support. And I only have 2 kids, and neither of them ever lived with me, except for when my daughter was little and I was in Germany, and she was there for, I think, 2 weeks, and her mom took her back to the States and then lost her passport. So that was the end of that. I've been overseas now since 2008, 9, retired 2011. So now it's 2025. So you see the timeline. And this kid that, you know, like I said, I get this message like, fuck you, fuck all of you. I go, who is all of us? Who the hell is he talking about? I don't know. It was right after the election. I'm like, I got nothing to do with elections. I don't have anything to do with politics. I mean, I live in fucking Mexico. I'm not dealing with Mexican politics. I'm sure as shit not listening to German politics. So what the hell is he talking about? But that's, again, he hasn't contacted me since. It's, you know, it's kind of sad because he was telling me he loved me and all this stuff. And I was like, man, son, I will fly you here tomorrow if you want to come here. I mean, I'm serious. I will go online and I will book you a flight tomorrow. I mean, we are building a castle here in Mexico. We found a castle in the middle of nowhere for a really good price, and now we're digging it out because it's one of those Tartarian mud flood myth in a star fort. You know what that is? Look at John Levy or look at the YouTube channel My Lunch Break. I have been rather obsessed with ancient architecture because it's sticking out of the ground. Like in the middle of nowhere, there is this huge pylon and these ancient bridges out in the middle of nowhere. And they're Romanesque and they're colonial, but they're made from this really amazing concrete that's it's indestructible. Just like the States, they went around and blew all these buildings up with dynamite to renovate them or whatever, when all they did was burn them to the ground, whatever wood was in them was out, and then would blow them up. So I'm offering this kid, who I've never met in my life, that is claiming to be my son, and I'm like, I'll, you know what I mean? I want to meet you. I want to know you. I'll fly to Germany tomorrow if you want me to. And he's just like, oh, I'm going to be busy. I go, oh, okay. I'm not going to push shit too hard. He literally said that, oh, don't be coming in here all guns a-blazing. I'm like, look, kid, I just want to know who my son is. I mean, I feel like I have been missing a connection, since you were born. I mean, I went as far as to adopt 2 other children, boys, and raise them to be adults when I could have had my own kid here myself with me. You didn't have to be with her and live in poverty. You could live with me. And I'm not saying I'm rich or anything, but we do live in a fucking castle. And it would be great for my son, who, you know what I mean, that doesn't know anything about me, to come and see how I really am day to day. Not the pretend to be me. You know what I mean? I played all these characters and all these stupid miniseries and all these characters I played on YouTube over the years. But this is the real me, not the pretending to be me, the authentic me. I have nothing to lie to you about, kid. So let's get past that. Really, what in the hell would I have to gain from being dishonest with you about my past, when I love talking about what a shitbag I was, to a point where he gets to the point where I don't believe in God. God is stupid. The idea is ridiculous. So I stay off the topic. Instead, I talk to him about what I'm doing with cars, or what I'm doing with these automotive projects, or these old fire trucks that I restore. And I'm just doing it for fun. So if you have a child that you know of, and you got to try to reach out, if they're combative like this, you're probably going to have to wash your hands. Let them come around. Because unlike dogs that love you, period, no matter what, they're more like cats. You know what I mean? They don't give a shit if you come around or not. So anyway, guys, like I said, I'm going to get off of the red meal talking, because I've said all I've had to say. And I'm not going to get on here and talk about girls and what to expect and going overseas. It's not even necessary anymore. All I'm doing right now is I'm focusing on doing what I can to educate kids. What I discovered is that there's a level of incompetence, and this isn't just in the US, it's worldwide, where incompetent people have been installed into government positions in order to destabilize the countries. Every country I've been to has this problem. And it has nothing to do with left or right. It's really more a matter of good and evil. And the evil that has overcome the US is the devil. And I recognize it because I have magical glasses that I can't take off, and I see the world for the way it really is. When you see the world for the way it really is, you'll stop being afraid. When you see the world for what it really is, you stop being afraid. I live in the most statistically dangerous place in the world. Remember when Caracas was dangerous and it had all these murder statistics? You don't have any idea what the hell has been going on here in Mexico as far as the cartel goes. So I don't know anything about the cartel. I don't know who the cartel is. I don't know where the cartel is. All I'm being told are stories about the cartel going and whacking all these politicians and police. There was 100 and something policemen murdered here in the last couple of years. And they killed like 2 paramedics one night, and then they would set something on fire and then wait for the fire department and then shoot the firefighters. So there's all kinds of bad stuff. And, firefighters are sacred to Mexicans. They don't like the cops. They know they're corrupt. And then they don't like politicians because they're corrupt, because everyone's a liar and a thief. And it only benefits them and their families, and everybody else is still peons. But over here, I discovered that this town is very, very different. One thing that I've noticed is that there are less kids with autism. There are more twins and triplets here than there is the last place I just left, which was awful, by the way. I lived in that place because I thought that's where I needed to be. I was working with those kids, but the parents and the people who lived around were not very good people. They were not very good people. They just not good people from the get-go. So to get off topic and talk about somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, I want my grandson to be in your program, your kids program, your after school program, so you could teach him and teach him English and teach him all this, this firefighting stuff and maybe teach him to be a paramedic." I'm like, sure. I said, it doesn't cost anything. We don't do this for money. We do this because we see a level of incompetence in the world and we want kids to be educated. So the best thing for ex-military guys to do is to teach everything they possibly could teach them, as far as CPR and first aid, buddy care, and stop the bleed, all the things we learned in the military, to pass that on to kids so that they'll at least be somewhat educated on the basics of first aid, buddy care, and CPR, and handling emergencies. We took it a step further, and I have a book that's about this thick, has 1,700 pages in it, and every day we take one lesson from the book. So in 30 days or so, we do one chapter. Great book. It's the IFSTA version 7. If you don't know what that is, it's the Firefighter's Handbook. We're also doing like paramedic stuff because we have firefighters that come in from all over, that volunteer their time 1 day a week, and they teach the kids something different. And we like doing that. People ask me, why would you do this? And I said, well, it's not for profit, period. And it's legitimately not for profit, period. I'm not interested in anybody's money. What I am interested is in the time that the parents will involve themselves with the kids, especially the fathers, because we only accept kids that are 7 years old all the way up to 18 years old. And it's just to teach them basic firefighting fundamentals, teach them self-restraint, emotional stability, teach them how to control their emotions, not to get angry, how to avoid bullies and how to handle bullies in school. And that's been a great thing because a lot of these kids are super weak. Now, you probably have seen the Prime Minister of England, the guy that signed up, and he was in a boxing class and he's hitting the bag like a 7-year-old, like this. And that's exactly how kids are their first day in self-defense class or boxing or Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu, is they can barely hit the bag like this. They hit it like this. And after a while, they're connecting and they know how to twist their body and they're loading up and so on. And they're smashing these and now they're learning. A lot of it is gut or bravado. A lot of it's just, emotions and so on. But today is one of those days that I'm very proud to say we had a mining rescue class. And we have this, like a tube of vinyl that's about 6 feet wide, about 6 feet in diameter. And we use it as a simulation for a mine. And the firefighters have to go in, or the rescuers have to go in. We call them topos here. This means mole. Go into the tunnels, secure the walls, shore everything up, take out the collapse, rescue the victim, take him out, check him out, make sure he's breathing, put him on a stretcher, and pull him out of the mine. And so on the outside of the mine, you have the paramedics and so on, and then you get your victims out. And the kids are doing this. 7-year-old kids, full well dressed up, mask, air pack, helmets, and learning to be in a confined space that has no air, that's hot as hell, that has no light, and it's completely dark, and they have to look for a victim. When they find the victim, they call on the command and say, I found the victim. That's been fun. Then we're doing, like, if you watch any of our videos on YouTube or if you watch any of our stuff on Facebook or Instagram, you'll see that the kids are now going up ladders that are 6 meters tall, which is about 30 feet. They're going up, doing something with their hands, carrying a tool, passing it on to something or hanging up on a tree or whatever we're using for the structure, so that they get over the fear of heights. And if you can listen carefully, the kids are trying to climb up a ladder. One hand has a shopping bag that has a boulder in it, a block of marble, going up a ladder one-handed like this. And these are kids that are 7 years old, up 30 feet on top of a wall, push this big rock on top of the wall, go to the other side, and then run backwards down the wall because it's on a slope like this, while pulling this rock along and then dropping it down to the partner. And then, of course, we're there to secure the kids on the other side. It really makes them feel just this big blast of adrenaline. And it is so much fun for them. And that, I think, has reversed a lot of the physical problems that I had when I got so skinny. And I reversed a lot of my age. In fact, I went to have a Scandex, it was called. And that's where they do how much water, how much muscle your body has. And I was still right around 10 or 12% at the time. And so I'm losing that horrible feeling of emptiness and so on. And the kid helped me a lot because, man, after 22 years of being alienated from him, I felt blessed again. I felt loved again. And I was like, fucking finally, because we're going to go through a lot of girlfriends in this life and a lot of women in this world. And a lot of them are not going to be too good. And at the end, you end up heartbroken. So what do you got to do at this point is focus on your own kids that you actually have, and don't make any damn more, because you know how expensive they are. Once you got your child support paid off, go overseas. Go find you a nice girlfriend, young girl, that you can settle down with, and things will be way different. Especially high value guys that, high net worth guys that can go overseas and be flexible. I'm not one of those guys. I wish it would be nice if I was, but I live pretty much on charity of others. Not that I'm asking for anything, but I don't have to pay for helicopter rides. Why? Because the foundation has a friggin' helicopter. They didn't have a helicopter before. I just happened to find one. And I said, hey guys, look at this. It's a helicopter that hasn't been serviced. They do a service every 12 years. It has to be refitted and so on. They were, change everything out. And I was like, this one here is less than $1 million. And they're like, where is it? And I'm like, it's in Frankfurt. It's in Mexico City at the airport in a storage container. And it's a ex-German military helicopter. So it flies, and I'm not scared because there's real pilots that fly every day. They do contract work and maybe do transport services, or they'll fly around in circles in Mexico City. And like I said, these are friends of mine that have this money. I don't have that kind of money. I'm not going to pretend I am or anything like that. But the point is that my kid lives in a world now in Germany where it's grown insane. It has gone back to being like before World War II and World War I, where degeneracy has come back, and there's all kinds of things. The world's different there now. There is no more freedom of speech in Germany. There is no more freedom of speech. You can't just say whatever you want online. People will come and knock on your door and arrest you. It's a two-tier system, but it doesn't help the citizens and so on. So it's screwed up. It's just like France. France is all screwed up. The Spanish are pushing back. I mean, it's a crazy, crazy story. People want to talk crap about the president here when I don't care about any politicians. And I don't care who you voted for. Personally, I like freedom of speech. I like people telling their people they're retarded when they're retarded. And not having to hold back. But now it appears that if you're a ex-military guy who's in shape, who happens to say stuff on the internet, you can be categorized as this or that. So I am getting off of those topics, and I'm only going to talk about stuff that's positive, stuff that's beneficial as far as anti-aging and health. Because like I said, these are things like peptides that, I was messing around with since 2010, 2011. Nobody knew what the fucking peptides were. I'm researching all this stuff, and I started taking them, and I was doing all my bodybuilding stuff back in those days. Come to find out that these anti-aging drugs reversed a lot of my physical age. So when I had the body Scandex done, they said I had an internal age of 12 years old. I'm like, how is that even possible? And by the way, I had the Rockera get a Scandex done too, and they said she had an internal age of 40. So there is a correlation between working out, staying in shape most of your life, especially starting out young, growing your muscles, especially your leg muscles, now it's for longevity. The bigger your legs are, the longer you're going to live, even if you smoke. So my child is out of shape. That literally told me he's out of shape because I got into a fight once. I go, what'd you do? Like, push the guy downstairs. That's not a fight. That's attempted murder. What are you talking about? And I said, well, you would be perfect in jiu-jitsu. You'd be perfect in Muay Thai. But the problem is somebody who's never worked out in their life or didn't do anything, physical activities, it's going to be pretty hard for them to maintain discipline because they have no idea what it's like to maintain discipline, which means being on a specific diet so you can lose body fat so that you comp your composition so you look better. And I'm doing this and talking to my own kid about these things. But like I said, he's combative. He actually knows a thing or two about bodybuilding diets. Surprised me. But like I said, I felt like I was talking to AI at some point. It just felt too unrealistic to me. And so, like I said, after 22 years of being alienated from him, I was able to connect with him. I was able to say everything I was supposed to say. And I was so happy because for the first time, and who the hell knows how long, I truly felt loved by one of my kids. Now, the opposite is true with my daughter, because my daughter went to college and was, brainwashed into that whole feminism thing. And she insisted it's not. I go, but you're literally saying everything, these talking points the feminists say, and you're blaming me for you not having a father because you don't know what the hell was going on. You were a baby. So how could you possibly have an opinion? You don't know anything about me. And so when I did try to be a part of my daughter's life, she rejected me. When I did try to be a part of my son's life, he accepted me. So, and like I said, this last little message that I got, fuck you, you people, I'm thinking that his mom got over his phone, was reading through his messages and heard the stories that I was telling him about what she did. And he's like, and maybe, she saw that, maybe took his phone away. He hasn't contacted me since. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the way it is. If it gets to the point where the woman is getting abusive with you, which they do, 70% of reported domestic abuse calls are initiated by the wife. And news what happens if a woman hits a man, he turns around and hit her back. And then call the police and he goes to jail. So to avoid those kind of pitfalls, I'm saying, is always record your initial, whatever you have to say. You're there, kid, here we go. But other countries, it doesn't work that way because they don't have the judicial system that has, the child support and enforces the law. Because once again, I'm saying, these whole countries are only interested in destabilization because it benefits the wealthy, and the rest of us who are not wealthy have to abide by laws that they do not. And one of those things that I would like to say I'm very grateful for is I did pay off all my child support come hell or high way. And I did that myself. Not for my daughter, but for my son. Because by default, when I got all my back payback, that's what we got paid. And it was like $70,000 in back child support. And so it was pretty severe. He and I talked about stuff that only a dude would know. His mom would never be able to replicate a conversation like this because there are certain things that men know that women just are not interested in or not wanting to do. So when I started talking about musical instruments and, hey, you want to see this video of me? I was singing on the streets in Mexico City in front of like 300 people. And he's like, sure, show me that. And I'm showing him. He's like, wow, I didn't realize you could sing. I said, well, that's part of the indication that you really are my son because you're musically inclined. Could be not. She could be trolling me the whole time. But I'm noticing that his English was flawless. Flawless English when I talked to him on the phone. We even got to a fight like to the point where I'm like screaming at him on the phone. I didn't say anything, bad or anything. It's just screaming on the phone that you're wrong. I don't deserve that, blah, blah, blah. Because he's telling me stuff that his mom said about me, and he's trying to fight me on stuff that I did when I was 20-some years old. You know what I mean? What do you want? But life goes on. I did get my kid back in my life, then it turned right back around. She probably took his phone, and I'm once again, alienation. Parental alienation is child abuse. Not paying child support is not child abuse. Amen? What are we going to be doing in the future? We're building a swamp buggy, a Florida-style platform swamp buggy. I am out here on the John Deere Ranch in Mexico. And the John Deere Ranch is like 6 small ranches that are about 55 acres each. And they're all divided up by crops and so on. So these are sharecroppers too. So that is amazing. I have the perfect view. By the way, I'm in the old firehouse. This is the old fire watch. It was built, I think, in 2013. Consequently, because of the violence by the cartels, everything here closed. Everything in town. Like extortion. One of the neighbors' kids got murdered. They didn't kill the father. But what they were doing, the cartel was whacking people that were robbers. And I'm like, wait a minute. They were killing innocent people? No. What they were doing, they would round up all the thieves that were, robbing houses and stealing cars for car parts. And the cartel went around with sicarios and just killed every single thief in town. Then they went for the drug dealers. So there might have been a ton of drug dealers. It was long before my time. But they killed all the drug dealers in town. Beheaded them and put their heads in like shopping bags and put them somewhere so they'd be found by people and then sent to the press. Pretty screwed up. But like I said, it is nothing to be afraid of coming to Mexico unless you're involved with the government. If you're involved with the government, with the police, or with the National Guard, and you are a foreigner and you're close to them and they have armed conflict, as in like 50 calibers being shot out of the back of a dump truck. And then they just like wipe out the whole police force with one gun. So there is a lot of power behind those dudes. I don't know who's in charge of them, and it's not my business. I don't want to be involved in any way. But I couldn't believe it for the first time in my life. I'm like, what, the cartel's actually the good guys? What are you telling me? Murderers are not good guys. I don't give a shit. Murderers, thieves, that is of the devil, okay? The devil comes to what? Steal, kill, and destroy, correct? Still does, still in business. And you got to ask yourself, why in the hell would the cartel care? Why would they care if they're drug dealers? Small-time drug dealers, when you guys make, Olympic-sized swimming pools full of money every day. Why would you care about common thieves that are just stealing car parts or cars or robbing houses? Apparently, somebody robbed the wrong house and rubbed the cartel members the wrong way. And they were like, oh, okay, so we're going to have to enforce a little bit of shit here and go around and cause mayhem. Now, what you don't know, this is a cool story. I don't know if it's true, but there was an undercover cop in the state of Texas. I believe he worked out of Houston. And he was saying that when he talked to the Hells Angels, like some of these people that are involved in some criminal activity, when he spoke to them, they said, well, they voted for Biden, they voted for Hillary Clinton. And he said, well, why? It's a biker gang. He says, because they would eventually destroy the country. They would have collapsed the economy. And that's what we want. And I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Because if you wanted to sell drugs without any restrictions, that's, I guess, what their game plan was. And in addition to that is they didn't want attention in certain areas. And what was happening is people were getting robbed, getting stolen from in those remote areas where all the tourists come and spend all their money in casinos and hanging out on a beach and bars and stuff. And instead of going after I guess, innocent people like you would think murderers do. They were going after guilty people. Actually, they were judge, jury, and literally executioner. There was a SUV, I guess it was an SUV, stuffed with dead bodies with no heads on the side of the highway on the way to this part of town. And I'm like, what? I mean, that is way too close to home from where I was living. And it turns out that every single one of those people was, I guess they're from Estado de Mexico, and they just executed every one of them and stuffed them in this Jeep or whatever and just parked it. Let the cops deal with that. Deal with this nasty shit. It's unreal. But like I said, you're not in any danger, because you're not involved with any politics. It doesn't matter. What does matter is that you keep your fucking mouth shut when you come through customs. How long are you going to be here? As long as it takes for me to fix this. You need to give them specific numbers and so on. I am not going to stick around long tonight, just because. But I did want to emphasize a couple of things, is that parental alienation is 40% in the United States. Paternity fraud is 30%. I guess it's a statistic. It's like 1 in 5 men are raising kids and they're not the biological father. And they don't know it. They're unaware of it. That's what that lady did with her ex-husband. And then she wanted to find a simp to provide for her financially, tax-free, because she was on government assistance. We're talking about Germany here. And so I am glad I was able to connect with my kid one more time. Just once. After I had a little fight or whatever, we were able to talk. Again, I'm not pushing anything because, to be honest with you, the renovation to the castle has been put on hold due to cartel activity in that area. And I don't need to be over there. And in fact, one of my trainers was like, why are you even here? I mean, it's not like we're making millions of dollars, doing, teaching like this. Yeah, we're making zero. Why do you do this? Why are you even here? Do you want the same thing to happen to the U.S. as far as the education? Do you want kids to not know basic fundamentals of science? Do they not want people to learn math? Maybe engineering. I'm teaching kids to take engines apart, like the pumps for the tractor trailers, to put them back together with springs and everything else, putting them back in service. Who would have thought of something like that would be so much fun for a kid? I hope you've enjoyed this. It's a bit of a scatterbrained thing. I have not been online for a really long time for a good reason. Like I said, I had bashed up my teeth. And now I'm like, we are spending so much time, we're wasting our lives away, sitting or laying in bed all day or spending too much time watching TV when you could be outside literally doing what we used to do in the 70s and throw the football or whatever. Do something that would be connections with your kid, because the purpose in life is connection with other people. What's weird is that people love to distance themselves when they're uncomfortable. Uncomfortable conversations, it is very easy to distance yourself from the person you're engaging with. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do, because it takes a big man to cry, but it takes an even bigger man to laugh at that man. I'm the professor. Let's see y'all tomorrow. I'm out.